Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. When you bring professional people into the nonprofit organizations, the professional touch you get to nonprofit as against in the past, most nonprofits used to be more like an ad hoc kind of, in a very ad hoc basis, right? Whereas I think the professionals entering into the nonprofit, they bring tremendous amount of their experience. And I just see with both Neeraj and Navin being involved in this incredible journey of building this Plaksha. It's absolutely phenomenal to see the ambition of what Plaksha is trying to do here. How do you differentiate from other great institutes in India? And especially given the fact that the government itself is opening tons of these IITs. I believe there are like 22 IITs or so, and both of you are from IIT as well. And it's not that IITians have not done a good job. They've been phenomenally successful in every aspect that they have touched. So what is your bigger vision of building this Plaksha at a stage like this? And what do you plan to do with this moving forward?
I think we had a three-pronged reason why we wanted to do this. One, as we go to the IITs and as we spend time, I personally have been recruiting at IITs for the longest time. I still go there and recruit many kids. And I've been called because I've spent so much time in my consulting industry by many of the younger IITs, IIT Hyderabad, many others, to come and give them some advice on how they can be a better version of themselves, etc. So I spent reasonable amount of time looking at them. I think it's fair to say that while there's a great brand and there's still a great input of students who go there, and there's historically been great faculty, I think the evolution has not kept pace with changing times. And in general, education more broadly is at somewhat of a crossroads in terms of not evolving and being itself becoming a bit of a legacy story across the world, not just IITs, but in many other places as well. You can go talk to people at MIT, Purdue, Stanford, many other places as well. They have some legacy issues. So one of the ideas was to create something greenfield which challenges conventional wisdom and reimagines what higher education looks like. So I think that was, our idea number one. And we felt, as you use the metaphor of ISC, something, if we create something which is truly iconic, not only will that be a great institution, it will inspire many others to lift their game. So we wanted something which is a catalyst for others to come as well, right? So that was intent number one. The second one was many of us, as you called out, have deeply been benefited from technology having solved many of the tough problems. I was personally involved a lot in Aadhaar and used to be passionate for financial inclusion over many, many years. I saw some of you, Carl, talk about financial inclusion. And I think if you roll the clock back to circa 2007-8, it was a very tough problem in India. And the advent of Aadhaar as an underlying stack layer, and then UPI and many other things on top of that has unlocked up, something which was an obligation has become an opportunity. I think that shift from an obligation to opportunity mindset is a big unlock to solving many problems in India at scale. And I think that just exemplifies one. Today, I think tomorrow it is, I deeply believe in a decade from now, it will happen in health. It needs to happen in water. It needs to happen in energy, many of the other things. So I think why am I saying this? I'm saying this because at Plaksha, we are very deeply committed to solving some of these fundamental problems using the power of technology. The thing we felt was that many of the institutions which have been created historically have been driven by the desire or the passion of one individual or an archetype called the government. We thought the collective approach of many great minds coming together who I think are like different faces of a diamond, but together they make the diamond shine in some sense, is something we can enshrine in Plaksha. So I think those were the three, but I probably somewhat long-winded as an answer, but those are our three core building blocks of why Plaksha.
I think as Neeraj mentioned and BV, as you talked about, all of us have benefited from getting great undergraduate education in India. But when we come to the US, I came to Stanford for my master's and PhD. You realize, right, like there is a difference, right? Like it's not just about getting a technical degree. It's about becoming a global citizen who understands much more than just what is in the technical knowledge. So the reason I joined forces with Neeraj and the other founders was if I look at India, where it is today, if you look at like top 200 global institutions, only like 3 are in India. And many countries which are smaller than India, like Singapore, they have many more, even in the top 50. We talked about China's population. There are many, many more institutions which are doing better than the IITs, right? So there are two ways to go, as Neeraj said. All of us, I'm also involved in helping IIT through their endowment, but you have to deal with the government, right? We know as entrepreneurs and technologists, it's sometimes easier to go after blue ocean opportunities rather than red ocean opportunities, which are brownfield. And Neeraj referred to that. The second aspect I really feel, which happens when you go to US universities, they make you a broader graduate, where if you can have an interdisciplinary technology curriculum, which integrates liberal arts and design, it can create a huge experiential learning. And that's one of the reasons why, right from the get-go, whether you look at UC Berkeley and some of the other institutes we are trying to partner with, is to essentially design our curriculum right from day one, get the faculty engaged, and do collaborative research. So I would say that's another thing I would bring up. And then in India, if you look at, yes, startups are coming out of IITs, but it's all bottoms up. So if you can enable industry innovation and an entrepreneurial mindset right from the get-go, then people will do research on things or learn things where they can go solve real problems. And that's what sitting in the Bay Area, Stanford has really, really, really done well, BV, as you know.
Yeah,
I think those are some of the things that come to my mind beyond what Neeraj had said. And I think that's the big opportunity. How do you create an institution which is a role model 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when the top universities in the world are talked about? Plaksha is one of them. And IITs can hopefully learn from it. Hopefully, many other institutions will flourish based on that model. So I think that's the big picture thinking, but it's not an easy task.
It's not an easy task, yeah.
So it's like when you're doing stuff from grounds up, you can just think out of the box, and that's what people in the industry want, right? And so I think those are some of the things you can do for India to spearhead. Like Stanford has the D school. Why can't India have one?
Correct. How will you pitch a compelling story of Plaksha, right? This is like a startup company pitching to the venture capitalists or to customers. How will you pitch a compelling story of Plaksha to open up their wallets, especially when many of them are already donors to many other causes, both in US and India, including myself?
Navin, you want to start? You are the master at it.
Yeah, I think so I think to me, it's pretty simple, right? So this is not a fundraise pitch or a meeting, right? So first and foremost, right? We need to all agree that India truly deserves to produce a university like a Stanford or a Harvard. And that doesn't exist, right? Like IITs are just for undergrad, but having been involved with IITs, you know where their research is, right? And what kind of publications they can publish, or can they really create global impact, right? So it has to start with a dream. The dream is, can we produce a university like Stanford or Harvard out of India? So that's one. The second thing is, it's not just about money. There are many, many people on this call who have a lot of experiences. And I think with our open arms, we would welcome any advice, any kind of involvement people want to teach. This is still at the formative stages. Even though we started working together in 2015, it's only been a few years since the launch, right? So I would say, if you believe in the vision, if you like the people, see how you can be part of it. And money is only one aspect of it, but we want this to be made in India, first for India, and then the role model for all emerging countries, as Neeraj said. So I think that's the way I would look at it. And with the experience people have had directly with their kids and some of the other stuff they're doing, I would put this in a different bucket, right? This is not to sponsor research at an IIT, which I'm doing, or to upgrade labs at IIT, right? This is more fundamental on reimagining what can be done in a place like India. And it has happened. It has happened in other fields, right? If you look at mobile, it's happened there. If you look at financial services, it happened there. So that's the true big aha, big opportunity, if you will. And Neeraj, right? Like, feel free to add, because for me, it's beyond the money. We need more people who are collaborators in helping us realize this vision.
Yeah, the only sentence I'll add is, I think Vanna showed these wonderful multipliers on girl child education, 30, 40x and others. I think I deeply believe if you create something which is truly world class on education, the multiplier on that in shaping a nation is the highest. I don't even know, it's 100, it's 1,000, it's many, much more. So I think it doesn't happen in a few years, but it happens in decade and more. I think we are on the journey to create something truly iconic. Maybe it's the Stanford or the MIT or the Takshashila, which India had, which nobody else had. So it'll be something unique. It'll be inspired by many, but it'll be something iconic. And I think if you want to be, that's my pitch. This is an opportunity, and it's still very young. You can all be a part of shaping it. And everybody who's involved as a founder takes some time to actually invest the time as well, with beyond giving the money. So I think those are the things which are.
I think basically what you're saying is create an institution that emphasizes on research, which is very important from innovation point of view, and then creating leaders, right, that not only help solve problems for India, but for the global market as well. I think the partnerships that you guys are establishing with the US universities, I think that is definitely a very exciting one. And my curiosity is, what do you plan to do with those partnerships? Is that professor collaboration, research collaboration, or something beyond that?
So 3 things I think BV right now itself. One is faculty exchange. I think we want, that's interesting. Student exchange. But I think the most exciting part of it beyond those 2 is the research together, right? I think there's a lot of interest on doing research at scale in areas like, take one of the topics we're doing is digital telescope, just to give an example, where we're collaborating with both Airtel and Google to put, creating a digital public good, which maps the state of Punjab for water, traffic, and agri, and make it available at scale, so, and you can do innovation on top of that and make it a digital public good. So that's one thing we're trying. So that's just an example of things. And other universities which do not have that ability are hugely keen. For example, one of the things we're discussing with Berkeley is the CRISPR on the plant side, just as an example. So there are many tangible things which we are in data science. The University of UC San Diego, they are hugely interested in data science because they have they believe they're very good in that. So there are targeted things. Purdue on the agri side is interested. So those are things which we are seeing.
Got it. So one of the questions I think that came on the chat was that encouraging students to think big, dream big, and become entrepreneurs. I think one of the questions is that students right after their education, are they like ready to go on to become entrepreneurs, or they need to gain some experience to go become entrepreneurs? I think it'll be interesting to get Navin's perspective, right? Have you seen, because you see a lot of budding entrepreneurs at Mayfield, so do you see like students just coming out of college immediately jumping on the path of entrepreneurship, and do you feel that they're ready for this challenge?
Yeah, what I would say is, right, like going after blue ocean opportunities and problems which relate to India, we are already seeing that happen from IITs. And the opportunity with the founding group that exists at Plaksha is a lot of these students are coming from very humble backgrounds, not unlike for people who immigrated like us to the US. They really want to start companies. And I think the issue is exposure and training. And what we are trying to do at Plaksha is with the industry integration, mentorship from founders and entrepreneurs, but also creating these research centers where you're solving big problems facing India, is actually getting them into the mindset of applying learning right from the get-go to solve real-world problems. And I think if they're given exposure and during the course of their undergrad, they can go and intern at companies, I think similar to the US, these people will be ready, right? What do they need? They need mentorship, they need to understand the problem, and they need access to capital. All those things are also available in India. And I think to solve new world problems, you need an open mind. You don't need a lot of experience.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is huge opportunity. And that's one of the aims of the 3 pillars is how do we foster entrepreneurship? It's not just about education, right? It's about creating leaders of tomorrow.
Thank you both for amazing answers and the dream that you're pursuing. And I think many of us want to be part of this journey. And let's go build a great institute out of India that we all will be very proud of.